Hello, friends. Today I want to start something of an irregular series that I will come back to every so often on this channel, entitled Circus Tropes That Need to Die, because who doesn't love hyperbole in their titles? In this series, I will share with you something that is really common and that I see a lot in circus acts and circus shows, and that either leaves me cold or leaves me sort of troubled. And I will dig into exactly why I think it doesn't serve the purpose of the act or doesn't serve the purpose of the show, and suggest some ways in which it could be done better. To start out with, I am riffing on that same theme of circus and authenticity that I was talking about in my last video, and I will be talking today about one of the things that I find the single most fake when I see it in a circus act or a circus show. I call this one the aerial amnesiac because it is as if you spontaneously forgot all of your circus knowledge. It is a particularly common intro, and it's particularly troubling to me where it is just used as the intro and the act proceeds completely unattached to it. The way it works is a performer will walk up to their apparatus as if that apparatus is a mysterious artifact from the distant future that no one could possibly understand how to use, and then immediately proceed to use it as an expert. Because they are an expert. Because we are paying to see their expertise. That's why we're here. And in case that wasn't a clear enough explanation and you would like a visual example, here is me hamming it up in my living room as if I have no idea what this structure is that's spontaneously generated above my coffee table. I think what most frequently leads people astray into this trope is wanting to communicate a sense of wonder. And I think that communicating a sense of wonder is actually an amazing thing to do with a circus act. I mean, I am a scientist, so wonder is my favorite emotion ever. I found a way to be a professional wonderer about the universe. It's an amazing gig. If I could convey the tiniest bit of the richness that there is in that sense of discovery through a circus act, I would be absolutely ecstatic. I think that, let's make more circus acts that communicate wonder. And I think what trips us up is that when we think about wonder, especially superficially, we think about that sense of discovery. We think about novelty. We think about seeing something new for the first time. And so we put that on the apparatus. But one of the things that I love about wonder is that it's much, much, much richer than that. You can feel a continued sense of wonder about things that you are fundamentally very familiar with, and you can find many of the things that you are very familiar with and love the most have that richness. The more you look at them, the more you see. And seeing something beautiful and new totally does provoke wonder. But that's not the kind of wonder that a seasoned performer is feeling when they walk on stage again. There's something else that might be worth mentioning in this context, which is that this might be behaving to subvert audience expectations as well. So audience members will expect a performer that goes on stage and immediately climbs their apparatus with a sense of confidence and virtuosity, and instead they're getting someone who looks confused or curious or like they don't know what they're doing. And that can be played for a laugh, or it can be played as very sort of beautiful artistic. And I certainly think that it's not as much what's going on as just, I want to convey wonder, so I will look at my apparatus as if it is new. But I think there's something there. And that variant of it, where we're subverting audience expectations that aren't necessarily even at play or relevant to the purpose of the act as a whole, that one I have definitely personally run afoul of. Look, I don't know about you, but when I'm totally new at something, even if I'm super curious about it, I'm bad at it. Like, exceptionally bad at it. Um, it's it's awkward. It's a period of experimentation and troubleshooting and figuring it out. It's a struggle. And also, I never really had a growth spurt, but I have heard from people who do over the period of a couple months suddenly grow a foot that, like, it's also true of your legs. It's not just moving on a new apparatus that's awkward. It's like if your body changes size quickly, all of a sudden you're like, where are my feet? I lost them. I need to relearn where my feet are. I need to relearn where my hands are. Um, movement especially graceful, dynamic, virtuosic movement, takes a lot of practice. And I'm also not like a cringe jockey. I don't really like seeing people just struggle at something. I like to see them succeed. And so I think that like even an amazing athlete, if we put them on stage and told them, here is something new and potentially interesting, learn how to use it, I don't know that I would want to watch that. Because if I'm putting myself in their shoes, like this is something that you've never seen before, you have no guidance, you're in front of a whole bunch of people, and you don't have like basic safety procedures in that case either. Like there's no mat. If you fall, you're just kind of dead. And so if that was me, I would probably just clam up and freeze and go into hyper cautiousness, maybe even walk off the stage if I knew it was good for me. Because if I didn't, I would run the risk of putting myself in a very unsafe situation where nobody could help me. And like, that's not a fun aerial act. That's a really stressful aerial act for the performer and the audience both. And it's also not what we see in aerial amnesiac. For aerial amnesiac, this isn't an entire act of like, ooh, what could I do next? It's like a thin veneer, 30 seconds of what is this thing I've never seen before that you have to get through to get to a fairly generic aerial act. And like I said in my last video, one of the things that makes Circus really unique and really beautiful is its authenticity. Circus is real and immediate in a way that very few art forms ever get a chance to be. And this veneer, this pretense, gets put in between us and the act, and it undercuts all of that authenticity. So that's why I think that this trope has to die. It is trite and it's silly, and that would be fine. A lot of Circus is trite and it's silly, but it's trite and silly in a way that undercuts one of the most beautiful things of circus arts as a whole. Taken to its logical extreme, I think a lot of the same things are actually at play when you like have an audience plant, and so your audience participation is actually just interacting with that planted person. And I want to say this is kind of how the show O starts. So like, I'm coming for you, Cirque du Soleil, or also that lets you know just how common this kind of trope is. But it's something like this. The ambient characters, the clowns, are riffing with the audience before the show. Spilling people's popcorn, that kind of thing. And they bring all of the attention in on one guy. Who's like wearing street clothes, plausibly an audience member. Sure, maybe. Kind of built, like super strong. Got great shoulders, but like plausibly an audience member. Okay. And instead of just like doing their bit and then moving on, they like strap him onto an apparatus and he's whisked up into the rafters to then perform in the rest of the show because, yeah, he wasn't an audience member. He was a cast member. And at base, like taking it to its like next logical conclusion, it's a little bit like this. Hello, fine patron. Oh, right, yes. Hello, clown, who I have definitely never seen before in my entire life. This your first time here? Actually, funny story. Yesterday, I didn't even know what a circus was. Yeah, right? Like, I thought it was one of those car roundabout-y things. Where everybody's going in a circle? So yeah, totally new. Uh-huh. And how are you finding it? Of course I've been having a blast. Everybody is just so friendly. Speaking of friendly, how would you like to join me backstage where we will strap you into an apparatus and drop you 100 feet into a tiny bucket of water. Yeah, sure. That sounds like a lot of fun and, not hardly dangerous. And that's probably a little bit more pointed and ridiculous than you would actually see in a live show. But the essential problem is the same. It's meant to bring us closer to the performance. So there is this audience stand-in character who is the planted audience member that we are meant to identify with as they journey through Circus Wonderland, picking up tricks and learning, building strength and becoming a different person so that when they return to their day-to-day life, it will have been fundamentally changed. Stereotypical hero's journey, we get it. But it's fake. And it's obviously fake. And it's not even fake in a way that, serves the rest of the plot necessarily. It's not like the costume and the music and the movement style and the character is all creating something larger than just the virtuosity of the performance or telling a story in parallel to that virtuosity. It's just creating this wall of inauthenticity. And because either we're expected to believe that as we progress through our hero's journey through Circus Wonderland, we are in Circus Wonderland and these moves are just things that happen. They're easy, they're effortless, they're accidental even. Or all of it is just completely and totally fake and there is no Circus Wonderland and there is no virtuosity. And so which is it? And are we supposed to get anything out of it? Am I overthinking? I'm probably overthinking this. It's probably just supposed to be gee whiz, which means we're not supposed to actually pay attention to the fact that the person is pretending they don't know what their apparatus is. It's not meant to fundamentally alter our interpretation of the act. It's not essential to it. It's this paper-thin veneer of, I am an artist. I communicate wonder. Except you're not even communicating wonder. You're not showing your own wonder. You are telling the audience, I want to communicate wonder to you, so I will pretend that I am still surprised by the very presence of this apparatus, when of course you knew the apparatus was going to be there. You're a circus artist performing on it. It doesn't make any sense. And anyway, there are better ways to communicate wonder. So I'm a scientist, and I really do view my job as a scientist as to wonder about, in my case, life, because I am a biologist. And pretty early on in my career, I had the good luck to see a talk by a Nobel laureate. And this professor had won the Nobel Prize for creating our understanding of how the very, very first part of development happens. So, especially in the fly, how development is controlled. And at this point, years after his Nobel Prize, technology had progressed to the point that you could actually watch a video of those things happening. And it's actually a absolutely gorgeous video of these cells growing and dividing and twisting and moving and coiling into a shape that will eventually become a maggot, which isn't beautiful to everybody, but kind of has a weird kind of beauty to it if you look at it under a microscope. Or maybe that's just because I'm a biologist. And so this professor showed us this beautiful video as his first slide to introduce us to the topic. And then, because he hadn't finished explaining everything that we were meant to see in the video, he showed it to us again. And then at the end of the second round, he was momentarily struck dumb by just the beauty of this intricate dance of cells all coordinating into this coil that becomes life. And so he showed it to us a third time for good measure. And at no point was there any doubt that the person in front of us knew what was going to happen in that video. He had taken the video, but even if he hadn't taken the video, he was the world's leading expert in this field. He knew more about this than any other human alive or who had ever lived. Like, this was his thing. And it's almost because of that I have never seen a more succinct and real expression of wonderment than him looking at the video the second time and just saying, like, oh, it's just so beautiful. I could just watch this all day. Let's just one more time. Just one more time. Wonder is really only shallowly connected to something that you've never seen before. Because in the things you love, there is so much more to learn every single day. You will never learn everything there is to know about the things that you love. And we instinctively know this as artists. This is what we do when we go to the gym and we find a new sequence or a new pathway or a new variation. We are creating new out of a combination of like understanding and experimentation. And that is where wonder can really like last and exist authentically for an entire career. Not in that sort of very superficial curiosity, oh, I wonder what that brand new thing is, but in that like lifelong love and curiosity and just wanting to know more and more and more about a thing. And so if we're going to authentically communicate wonder through a circus act, then that's what we need to dial into. The kind of wonder that lasts for an entire career. I do want to preface this by saying that there are a few sort of show-level contexts and framings that I think, maybe could fix it. For instance, maybe someone is summoning a circus demon and messed up, and so they are possessed, and they don't know what's happening, but their body does, because their body is possessed by a circus demon. Or maybe touching the apparatus awoke memories of a past life, and so they had no idea what it was before touching it, but they were irresistibly drawn to it, and now that they have grasped onto the rope, they also know how to use it. Or maybe it's the apparatus itself that is causing the act to occur, and not the performer at all. So, I could totally see any of those becoming really fascinating acts. And if you have the storytelling chops to actually convey that to an audience without coming out and saying, like, well, Joanna has summoned a trapeze demon, but the pentagram seal was scuffed, and so the trapeze demon is running loose and possessing her and causing her to do these trapeze moves, then you're a better storyteller than I am. But if you don't want to get caught up in trapeze demon world, and you just want to convey a sense of wonder in your aerial act, I think there are also some ways that you can do that. For instance, that feeling of like, I just love this one. You gotta see it again, would work so well with certain movements that end in the same place that they've begun. And you can do it and then have this connected moment with the audience where you look at them and you're like, and then you do it again so that they can see it again in case they missed it. And then, one more time for good measure, because we emulate Nobel laureates. Or that feeling of like almost compulsive sharing you get when you see something that's just amazingly cool. That like, oh, look, you gotta see this. You gotta see it. And I think that could be a really interesting emotion to embody in a beautiful pose. Instead of the traditional like, ta-da, here's a split. taking it into like, I don't know exactly how this happened, but like, isn't this just beautiful? Isn't this just like wonderful? And all of this is just wrapped up in this like wanting to spend more time in this moment and wanting to spend more time with this enthusiasm, because for me, wonder and awe are inextricably tied up with love. The things that I find the most wonder in are the things that I love the most. In sort of the other direction, though, I don't think that I would dislike this trope as much as I do if it just like lasted a little bit longer into the act. So, you know, show a rap and you'd be like, is this right? Is this gonna keep me safe? Maybe I need to redo it. Take it off, put it back on, wind up somewhere and think like, where am I now? And then it turns someplace cool and you have that moment like, aha, that wasn't so bad after all. And that could be really creatively interesting too. Or, and not to be a complete spoil sport, but, you know, to be like, I don't know, 80% of a spoil sport, isn't part of the reason that people watch acrobatics in circus acts to feel a sense of wonder at what humans are capable of? And as such, even if you just do some really cool circus tricks, will you not have communicated wonder? I mean, you know, just saying. Stick to the stuff you're good at. Throw in the muscle climb. But don't trick yourself into thinking that the audience doesn't expect you to be strong, because, you know, they probably do. So I hope that you enjoyed this. I hope that you laughed at least a couple of the jokes. And I really like the idea of this series. So if there are circus tropes that you would absolutely love to see me pick apart in this manner, or if you have really great examples of people doing wonderment right, I would love to see those. Please, please, please let me know. And until next time, bye-bye.